Yeah, so we're doing a little different.
Podcast.
See my breath in here? See that? Yeah, it's pretty nice. Keeps you fresh, keeps you on your toes.
Say no to the jewels, kids. Don't jewel.
So
I
thanks for
don't know what I'm
coming. This
talking
is
about.
we're hanging out tonight. I'm with my my partner, my cisgendered female life partner, if you will.
This is correct.
Montserrat
I'm cisgendered.
DelaGarma.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's one of those things. What's great though is like I knew you for going on 11 years now, right?
What?
11 years. We've been
Yes.
friends for 10, going on 11.
Correct.
Okay. I've always known you as like the feminist. Like you were the hardcore feminist. So I wanted to bring you on as a counter to the first episode I did with Sean Funzalita. Shout out to Shawnee. This was supposed to be, if I could just say this real quick, this was supposed to be a show hosted by both of us. Now, we hit a little bump in the road. He called me the other night, and I won't get into too many details,
I was about to say, tell me about this, please.
he called me the other night and he said a couple things, and I'm not gonna say anything because he's my friend and whatnot. I'll leave it private, but ultimately, I don't know if he's coming back on the show. So
Drama.
the guy's got a lot on his plate. Let's just put it that way, and I wish him well, and I want him to know he's welcome anytime. I'm gonna leave it there, and
We wish him all the best.
that's correct.
But you have been replaced by a woman because women are taking our jobs.
That is my next point. So we have a counter to that episode. We're sitting here with a feminist, a reformed feminist, if you will, former Catholic as well, reformed Catholic, according to Naj. I'm just kidding.
You're like adamant about calling me a former feminist? Sounds like.
I'm joking. You said you were.
Let me ask you this.
You said you were.
Do you know other feminists? Do you have
a
other,
reference?
Yes. In the Salinas Valley? You must know other so-called.
Every feminist I've met, as a badge of honor, just had like
hairy armpits.
As a badge of honor, and it was grotesque.
You are disgusted by hairy armpits?
Have you seen mine? It's like a baby seal down here. It's like why should I hold them to a lower standard?
Legs?
Listen, we're not gonna get into the specifics on any.
This is the time. This is now the time.
Listen, I don't know that many feminists, but I always knew you. You were my feminist friend.
Because I was the only one. Never mind.
Oh, okay. So you were like, you felt landlocked and isolated from the rest of your tribe. You were like looking for Atlantis.
No, I'm just curious about what makes you think that I was a feminist. Exactly.
You literally told me.
General.
We talked about everything, and you told me about we talked about everything.
I do not recall.
When we were friends, we were platonic friends for 10 years. Well, I don't mind being personal. We're getting personal, I mean, it's all right.
Let's just
platonic.
Tell the internet all of our dish. Let's just dish
If I can
out.
get into that, let's get into that. We have just moved back to the area from the great Garden State. I had a friend, before I get into that, and I don't want to jump around too quickly, but I had a friend at United Airlines, a Jehovah's Witness, J-Dub, if you will. Gave me some great advice.
Not his real name.
He said, if you're going to date somebody, never forget this. If you're going to date somebody, go on a long road trip with them.
Yeah.
I remember that. Like he was,
travel with them. Road trip.
Go on a long road trip with them, and I never forgot that. And I remember hitting you up while we were just friends, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And I didn't really know what was gonna happen. I didn't expect it. It kind of came out of left field for both of us, I think.
It did. So is your goal now to share specifically dating advice to younger men? Would you say that that's one of your goals? I mean,
I don't know if I'm like
I think
the
you have a lot
best
to
guy
offer.
to take advice from in that department, but any wisdom I've obtained, I'm willing to
Impart.
impart, if
Hmm.
you will. It's a great word. I love that word.
I think you have a lot of wisdom to impart
Thank
because
you.
I'm sure
I'm like a well-worn Jay at this point, I think.
yeah, you and Sean got into it.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that?
I think you have a lot of advice to give, and I love that you're very passionate about about sharing that with others. And I think podcasts are a great way of doing that. And it's like a very I was gonna say affordable, but it's an accessible way of doing that. And
Affordable. Coming from
like you don't need all kinds of fancy equipment to do it. You don't need to have access to
we
some
just talked
like
about
back
how
in the day.
much
I
like
know,
some
I
of this
know.
and you're just like okay,
It
well
takes a
that's
lot of work at the same time, but it's not something totally out of people's reach. You just,
this is true. And that I do want to encourage that, and I'll put specifically what equipment I'm using to do this in case anyone else wants to start doing a podcast too. So yeah, we're so where did the feminism seed get planted? When did that happen? How did that happen? Because I always thought it happened in Sacramento when you were like on that Greta Thunberg
oh my gosh.
kick.
Now. But that was definitely at the height of like progressive values for me personally. But I was just gonna say, off of what I heard today, the conversation with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, how like nowadays society pushes, some might argue, distorted view of femininity, and it's like not as valued to want to have kids or get married and do traditional things. And I would say that yes, that was absolutely just part of growing up, is that you need to be like all about girl power and, you know, being totally independent of men, and it's frowned upon if you need a man in your life, and it's good to be a feminist and to call yourself a feminist. And now I see it a little differently. So I don't really, I mean, I'm obviously on board for human rights for everybody, but I see feminism currently a little bit twisted. I'll leave it there. Twisted, Your Honor.
Absolutely, yeah. And I hear what you're saying. I think that it's been politicized in a way that's like it's kind of ran away. What do you think the original objective was in its inception? Like,
well,
do you
it's
do you
the
think?
devil
All right,
trying to break the family. So I'm just kidding.
I mean, do you think I guess my question. Let me rephrase that.
Didn't say
No,
madam.
who's like the founder of the modern feminist movement in the
Gloria
United States?
Steinem.
Gloria Steinem. How do you think she feels about where it's evolved? Do you think she's cool with it? Do you think she has her like trepidations?
Yeah. Well, now you just have to go.
She's
on
obvious.
Twitter. I mean, everybody's problematic. She was with the CIA, and she's, I mean, all that.
She
that
dropped
whole
the hard
sector.
C right now. She dropped the hard C. We don't bring them up.
We don't talk about that.
Ever.
Well, I'm a U.S. citizen, so I get to talk about whatever I want because
That's
I
right.
believe in freedom of speech.
This is correct.
But secondly,
America.
right away people criticize white feminism, so there's already like a division there. And how does Gloria Steinem feel about it now? I mean, she's pretty active, but yeah, I mean, all these people, they're elites, so like, what do they know about working class mothers? I don't know.
I think once you tap into a niche in this country, you kind of just run with it, no matter what. Like, and morality goes sometimes. I like whether like your moral compass kind of takes a back seat, and you just kind of like
do something.
America is cutthroat, and since we're on that topic, and you're on your own out here. That's all there is.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you really think that? Do you really think you're on your own in America?
Let's go, Brandon.
That's right.
I think you're on your own. I think you need to make up your own mind. You need to defend your own house. If New Jersey taught me anything, and growing up in Salinas taught me anything, it's that if you you can't really always depend on the systems that are in place to do the right thing, you know, in a timely manner. Defend your home in a timely manner. These are important things that you need to take ownership of on your own, and just
Pick
if
yourself up.
you walked out in the world knowing I'm I'm my best defense, and I need to be the one in charge of my decisions and defending my family and my home, then I think you're in the right place. But also don't go crazy.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's
There's a
really fair.
balance to all that, but
That's another big topic. Yeah, don't depend on other people to give you stuff.
yeah, I mean, well, I remember in
Entitlement.
Jersey. In Jersey, it was crazy. I had apparently this is an issue out here too, but I had my catalytic converter stolen. I had the Jeep keyed. I had it was crazy because I wasn't parking in a garage or anything. I was parking street side, and so we had the guy on camera because Chrissy, shout out to Chrissy Araya, the
Good
day one,
person.
good man. Love that guy. But yeah, no, it was crazy because I called the cops and they didn't. They I don't know what it is about Patterson. Patterson's a weird place. Took about a week for them to respond, and then there were other things that happened there. I remember hearing a guy get shot down the street.
That happened a lot.
He would just gunshots and you'd hear. I heard a guy saying I've literally I've only lived X amount of time. He was screaming and in pain. It was just.
It was the real world.
It was crazy.
It was bad.
It was crazy. And and so when people from the East Coast R.A. the Rugged Man, who was just on Tim Pool's podcast, when he goes crazy talking about the systemic racism coming from Long Island, I totally get that now. When otherwise I wouldn't have understood that. But if you come from that world and you see the decrepit neighborhoods that are left and mostly Black and Latino, or you see
immigrant neighborhoods.
Yeah, that are deliberately neglected and kind of left to be the Wild West or the Wild East, and that's a reality out there. And there's parts of Brownsville in Brooklyn, and there's parts of the Bronx that cops don't even go to. It's crazy. And I mean that not it's not happening out here, or I'm sure at some places in between, but yeah, it's just it's a different vibe though.
It's it was a different total world. I was just gonna say I think you're right about if you have an attitude of fending for yourself versus why aren't others giving me this what I'm entitled to, you're gonna have a better time. You're gonna focus and get ahead versus being angry at the system. And that's again the divide between the left and right of socialism and what are our rights, and also versus personal responsibility, personal work. The cards are against you because life is hard, but also you need to work hard no matter who you are or what you come from. You need to put in the work. And that's kind of funny because I was just thinking about you're talking about Patterson. I was going to ask you, do you remember that guy at the art factory, the owner?
Yeah.
That rich guy?
Yeah, he was a firefighter, retired firefighter. He would brag about Spielberg coming by, Scorsese.
Right, West Side Story.
Right.
And he was
he said Spielberg was awesome. He said Scorsese was a dick, for the record.
That's funny.
Which I totally buy that. Well, I think I'm going to give Scorsese the benefit of the doubt because I think he has so much love on the East Coast that he's kind of just let me live my life.
It's
he can't even go to the grocery store probably out there. You know what I mean?
Martin Scorsese on the East Coast.
He's just too loved. He's the Buddha of the East Coast. He's put on a shrine as the guy who
Probably
He's the
generic
guy.
enough to also just put on a cap and blend in.
I seriously
I don't
doubt
know.
that. I seriously doubt that. I mean, maybe.
You're more of a Marty.
I love them
Steven.
both. I love them both in their own ways.
Steven.
When I last discussed movies, I really wanted to get into the specifics of what I meant by all that. I have nothing but love and respect for that whole generation. Even George Lucas. I forgot to mention George Lucas last time. If it wasn't for George Lucas, I would have no real love for cinema the way I do. I think he's the guy who sparked the initial fascination with that whole medium.
And what would you say you're more like work ethic wise? Lucas, Spielberg, or Scorsese?
Work ethic wise,
Who do you relate
I like
to
to
more?
think that I have the kind of the
Temperament?
I like to have the ambition of Spielberg, the street smarts of Scorsese, and the also the love of the greater interdimensional transcendental
The deep
facet
thought.
of George Lucas's work. I think
Mhm.
all that's cool. I think there's no I don't know. But then again, it remains to be seen. I haven't really
Who will replace those men? Who will replace those people?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Up and coming directors.
I don't know.
I don't know.
There is a next Kubrick out there somewhere though, and the guys are always looking out for that. I mean, you know what I mean? Hollywood could definitely use a nice little jolt.
They all probably have a little. Probably have another. They're not done yet. I was bringing up this David Feller from Patterson though because I remember him saying to all of us. I mean, now he's a millionaire essentially, and now he knows all these people. He's very well connected, and he's.
You think he's a millionaire?
Yeah, he was talking about just.
I'm a millionaire.
Well, he was
You
talking
have
about
no
how much
idea.
the place cost, and he was just. He was like, "You can be a millionaire, and you can be a millionaire, and you can be a millionaire." He looked at all of us, and
Well, if the way I've always looked at $1 million, it's 1,000 bundles of $1,000. And that can totally be. I mean, if we brought up Mike Tyson last time, $38 million go like that.
I know. Yeah, if
It's
you're
not,
wise.
I mean, the way Grant Hill spends money. It's no, I'm joking.
We should talk about money. Actually, that's a huge thing too. Young people and money and men, women, how we spend and view our money, especially in today's materialistic world. It's a lot
Right.
of projection and whatnot. But I was gonna say just when he said that, since I had just moved to the East Coast, I was still very much in a Sacramento mindset, very progressive, and I resented that. That he said that a little bit because I was like, what is he talking about? He's a white guy, and of course, doors have opened for him, But, I mean, I agree that I think, yeah, some people have maybe more challenges, obviously, but at the same time, if you work hard, you can get ahead.
I agree. 100%.
Maybe that's controversial.
I think we've
but-
always had the same position on as far as the American dream goes, because you're a first generation Mexican American, and you grew up without cable, apparently, right?
It was hard. It was difficult.
That's an inside joke. She says it all the time. Yeah, so
It changes people.
but yeah, I think we both agree that that people who think that there is systemic racism, and that's a huge issue, they're not wrong. I think that although I disagree with a lot of the rhetoric, I don't think that they're wrong entirely. I think, and then on the other hand, you have these people who think that reverse racism exists, and
Reverse racism. Ooh.
right.
You did not just say that to me, man. You did not just say that to me.
You throw your tea in my face. If I can just give a little anecdote for that, because I have a friend who will remain nameless. He's an Irishman.
Sean.
Grew up in. I have plenty of Irish friends. He grew up in the area. Moved here from LA somewhere around there, and he came up and he was trying to find his way in life like everyone else, and he became enamored with Latin culture along the way because he was surrounded by it, and he took 3 years of Spanish classes. He speaks fluent Spanish.
Wow.
He's he's a very he gets by in the Latin community, you know what I mean? And this guy would totally get his job was to go around and like make sure that different he was a union rep, and he'd go around and he'd have to deal with different workers all over the place, and like there is like a standoffishness sometimes from Latinos towards a white guy, even though he like there's no bigger fan of the Mexican culture than that guy. And I don't know if all that's like 100% true, like because part of me knows that he kind of like did that to get laid and stuff, but maybe it is genuine. Who am I to say?
Okay, let me ask you this. Can you talk about your experience with colorism or racism a little bit, just in general? Do you have that in your life
all right.
at all?
So yeah, we've talked about this. We did remember on the drive through Arizona, we got in a fight over this literally same conversation.
Oh, okay.
And this was years ago. This was 2 years ago. Before George Floyd,
Was that
before
our
all
first
this shit.
podcast?
That was our first podcast. And
Oh my god.
so yeah, I mean, listen, like I have experienced, I think first of all, racism is just racism. I'm not trying to undermine anyone's plight. I think like people are tribal, and they will like I think people are naturally prone to be selfish and to be self-involved, and like, oh, you're like me, I'm with you then, and like that's just the way things go. But like I also think that people transcend that. And I also think that society is going to move beyond that, if it already hasn't, but I think it has in a lot of ways. But yeah, it has, there are complicated situations out there that involve like a lot of nuance. And so I'm not going to give a blanket statement about racism other than the fact that like we all have to deal with it one way or another. And I remember growing up and like having being like talked shit about from like my black friend, like black people I knew who were talking shit about Mexicans. And like, obviously I knew white people who would talk shit about Mexicans or like black people, and like everybody's just kind of going at each other, and you're kids, you don't really know better until you know better. But like when you're some grown ass people now and you're on some dumb shit like that, it's like, get perspective, pump the brakes. There's only one race. We're all human, but there are many plights. There are many facets of humanity, and we should all be respectful of that. I think that you can't have one of those two things I mentioned earlier. You got to find the balance between them both in the middle somewhere. And like, yes, there are times where white people are like untrusted, and it's not for nothing. I mean, there's been a whole history of like
subjugation,
the KKK, subjugation, etc., and so forth, Spanish Inquisition, all that shit, and it's triggering. But we gotta like look each other in the eyes and have heart to hearts and just understand that we're here now. You know what I mean? Like we can be better. We can live better and do better. And I just like to like I don't care who's like sitting across from me, even if I have like a personal I know I have my personal biases and stuff, but like I just want to give them the same respect, whether they're whatever background they come from, and I want to know the person, and I want to like meet them where they're at, So that's my take on that.
I'm just kidding.
Is that too much? I feel like I'm just yapping away here.
That's good. I just am glad I'm not a white person in this day's climate. Just kidding. Just kidding, white people. But I do think about it's a lot of awkwardness out there, and like we make it more awkward, by being so aware of race at all times, you know. It's easy to fall into that. In like trying to fight racism, you become very race conscious, and like that's all you want to. I was in that boat, like really just like, what are they? I still want to know, like, I don't know. And the other question is, how do you talk to kids about that? You know, like how do you teach kids?
I mean, in my head growing up, I had this like old Windows computer with dial up and all that shit, and I was like 10 years old, and I'd like go on there, and there was this clip of Martin Luther King giving the I Have a Dream speech, and I just like, I remember watching it kind of because it was like I was just exploring Microsoft Encarta, and it was like it was the first time I saw an encyclopedia on a computer. And so I had clips for like historical clips and like different excerpts and stuff. And I would watch him give that speech repeatedly. I would like one time wasn't enough. I would just sit there and listen to it over and over again. And I just remember thinking like, okay, that seems like the most like logical way to go about things. That whole like
no color.
It's not, I don't think he denies color in that speech. I think he embraces the fact that there are Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics. There are there's a wide array of multifaceted humanity, but at the same time, like we can live in a world where people truly just seek to understand their characters, the character of the person. That's the only thing that matters. The character of the person you're dealing with. And like if they expose the fact that they're unworthy of your friendship or unworthy of your time through their actions, then that's where they've designated themselves, and you leave them there, you know what I mean, and you move on with your life. But we got to give, I think he was just saying, like, inviting us to be more loving and conscious, Christ conscious, and like,
I mean, yeah, it's basically Christianity in a nutshell of not judging each other by what man sees, but what's in your heart.
It was very forgiving. It was very loving, and I think ultimately it gave us like a major push forward in society. I think.
Don't you think
he's a martyr now? That's what happened because he was such a powerful voice at the time. I think personally,
such power. It's like if you're being too reasonable, they cut your head off. Yeah. We always talk about that. Like, what would these leaders of back in the day, what would they think? What would they say now with social media and like the entire opposite of reconciliation and forgiveness? It's just crucifixion of anybody who makes a mistake. We're good and you're not.
Do you think MLK would be posting selfies right now? Do you think he'd be like double tapping?
I mean, who is saying that? Like, who are people? Who is wanting to talk about tolerance and forgiveness for white people? Nobody. That's not at all the conversation. It's the exact opposite of what his message was. And he was calling people out too. It's like you have to be. It's like being lukewarm Christian. You can't be lukewarm. You can't be sitting out. You gotta like either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. And he would rather trust somebody who's fully racist versus somebody who's hiding their racism. But I don't know how to like be I would love to be. I don't know how to spread that message because I don't think anybody wants to hear it. It's not controversial and it's not entertaining.
People want to feel avenged. They want to feel.
Yeah, that's totally what's
they
out
want
there,
to feel like.
Same with the whole
eye for an eye kind of thing.
The whole what's another way of saying this without showing up?
But honestly, like, where does that end? I've always like kind of like raised an eyebrow at that because like if we were gonna do eye for an eye, then where does that leave the Guatemalan housekeeper who's being paid minimum wage and can't even afford to live in the city that she's working at? You know what I mean? Because like, I mean, there's just like there's always gonna be a person who's like exploited
Oh,
in
yeah.
the systems in the economic systems
Right,
that we
right.
have in effect right now.
Right, exactly.
And there's only gonna be a downtrodden person. I mean, even Christ said that the
Mhm.
poor will be with you always.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Like the poor, like
Right.
people
Right.
lacking wisdom, or does that mean like actually like monetarily poor people?
That's totally true. I was just talking about this because I was talking to this person who doesn't have, um, I mean, it's not Christian, but, um, and I've been in that boat. And when you don't have any hope, you feel like the problems of this world are unbearable. And it's really sad that it's like, oh my gosh, how can we not solve poverty, you know? But like, it is true that um, there is just greed. There is evil in the world and there is good in the world, and you can be a part of the good if you want to. You could really affect a lot around you. But yeah, I think it's really important to remember that and not let yourself not be weighed down by, all the problems that have existed, will continue to exist. Anyways, I could go into that further.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, it's very easy to like feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and every day is just kind of like a constant fight. Like you said, you had a friend from Sacramento who's constantly living like that, and who you
Right.
were very close to, and I felt like you brought that energy with you into our lives.
Household. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's intense. You can't like. I think you have to do what you can and try to be a positive influence. I mean, you definitely do that.
I sleep at night is all I can say. But there
Yeah.
was like years when I didn't have that. That kept me up at night, and I feel really bad for anybody who, stays up at night with all the problems of the world in their head, because that's no peace. And I know like the world right now is like terrible, but at the same time, I'm not afraid.
This is coming from a world traveling woman, very well versed in the international travels. You lived in
Totally. No,
Germany, you
just
lived in
kidding.
France, you lived in
Just in Europe,
s-
but
Europe in general.
just in Europe.
There's a lot of that's a
Not other
lot.
places
Can't
yet.
be vague. Are
Not
you trying to be vague?
Australia. But well,
What?
the whole like lack of forgiveness and like wanting to wanting revenge and hating the other side, putting all of our problems on a group of people. I was just listening to that today too. It's like Don Lemon talking about how the people who don't want to get um this injection
Mm.
are stupid and are part of the problem.
Mm.
And
Well, fuck him. He could say what he wants. We could say what we want. It's just gonna be like that. I think that we should be
we need to
focused
love
on.
Don Lemon.
We should be focused on community. Yeah, I think it's important. Like as a society, I mean, if you really like want to like look at um, we're up against. I mean, he's sitting in a little ivory tower saying whatever he wants, his little talking points. But at the end of the day, like, I
feel
think that's
bad
insane. I
for-
think like, why wouldn't you just want to do whatever CNN tells you,
Well, I think
or do whatever Don Lemon tells you? Why not just listen to Don Lemon? I mean, he's in the driver's seat of all of our lives, right? That's just the way we should live.
Yeah, I think that's what people's frustration comes from. With like not getting everybody to do this, that it's just like, dude, I did it, so why aren't you doing it? I know this was like unapproved and this is just like for emergency, but I did it because I trust science and to protect those around me, those I love.
Right, right. And listen, I mean, if you got it, stay healthy. Do your best. I'm not like, I don't know what we're really up against. I just know like critical thought should not be taken off the table. That's all I know. and that's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that. I don't know. I just think like there's some. I've been around enough fuckery to know that I have discernment. You know what I mean? And like, why undermine that? Why not raise questions? What's the problem with raising questions and having a dialogue? You know what I mean? Like,
Because you might discover things that are unpleasant and should be hidden and are not convenient for the public to know about. And instead, you have celebrities just telling you that we should all do this because we're all in it together. And it does become. I don't care. I mean, really, like, if you're gonna try to do this for freedom, you should be able to say whatever you want. But I think, just like the power of Google and YouTube and the algorithm, that really is like, that makes you stop to think about what you're saying, to the internet. And that's sad.
it reminds me of that scripture. It says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, darkness, spirits of this age. That whole, like, this isn't a fist fight. This is like we're up against lies. There's also a scripture that comes to mind with Moses, like back in when Pharaoh said he wanted the Israelites to work so hard that they pay no attention to lies. These like constant distractions in people's lives. You work right now in California. The pricing, housing, everything's insane to the point where like, yeah, you're working so that you could like just get to your next paycheck and keep going and like who cares if like what's going on specifically. We just need to like focus on working and keeping food on the table, and that's cool, like, to like be focused like that. There's honor in that, like to be a hardworking person and be a good, contributing member of society. But at the same time, we need to take a step back and we need to really like ask ourselves like what is happening here and like what are your values and what are you doing in the long game, because like that is a conversation that we will never be able to have outside of these times right now. This is the only time that we have to really have that dialogue.
All the time, but people probably were saying this stuff too when we had like credit cards roll out,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We're not going to be using cash anymore. But this is all part of the same thing. This is all part of going into this
because
very
like
digital
someone
world.
mentioned it earlier. I was listening
Lack
to
of
it, and I wanted to talk
transparency.
about like our favorite podcast in a minute. We'll talk about that, but like people were on the Union of the Unwanted, I was listening to before I did this show. They were talking about how like we were used to like incremental steps in the direction of tyranny, and now they just said they threw that all off the table because so many people were getting rich that they're like, we can't have that. We can't control all these people. We need to like step on the gas full throttle. And what happened after Occupy Wall Street? What happened after Bernie Sanders almost got elected?
More consolidation of
The
power.
Democratic presidential nominee. What happened when Donald Trump took office and said fuck the deep state? Pretty much, more or less, not really, but you get the gist. You ended up with a entirely fucked up situation where the lights went out and now like everyone's sitting on their ass collecting unemployment, and we're barely dragging out of that, but we're still being forced to earn our place in society with this social credit bullshit slowly inching its way towards us. Like, you can't fly in a plane, you can't work, you can't like, how far is that gonna go? You know what I mean? Like,
however far people are willing to put up with it.
and this is what I want to talk about, because we just drove here from New Jersey in July, so it was a couple of months ago. When we came back, we saw about like 15 states, right? Something like that. And of those 15 states, I would say 4 or 5 of them were really mask crazy.
I would say 2 of them, but yeah. New York and California, that was it.
Jersey was
yeah,
like,
New Jersey, New York, yeah. And then California. And
but there's a lot of the flyover states, I would say, are are some of that's part of the saving grace of the United States right now, I would say. You know?
You're the real MVP, Kansas. Arkansas.
That's such a ridiculous statement. I love how ridiculous that statement is. And on that note, folks, we're going
next time.
till next time. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Unless you want to keep rolling.
I mean, I could talk all night about this.
I like it. Yeah, if you're in the zone, please, by all means. I just want to be conscious of like how.
And
cold
another thing.
Yeah, let's go.
Late night conversations. Can I ask you questions?
Sure. Yeah.
And you're gonna be honest with me? I'm just kidding.
So who the fuck?
Well, okay, funny story. Frank.
So what were you doing dancing with
I was
Jacinda?
gay for a while or something. Or I would joke around so
Well,
much.
okay, you first of all, you told me you made out with a woman. Secondly, you told me you were gonna have a sex change. So I kind of thought you were gay. Also, you were very like kind of like tomboyish the whole time I knew you. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I was trying to suppress being feminine, you know, like, cause I'm just like, I don't like everything. I don't like what that means, and it's just I was very confused about. I still am very confused about how I express my. Okay, let me clarify. I'm not confused, and I'm not talking about my sexuality. I'm not talking about orientation or anything like that. I'm talking about my feminine expression, like just my womanhood. You know, that I'm coming into it, and I'm still like young enough to be figuring it out, but like old enough to be like way more assertive and way more like clear about who I am, you know? This like therapy. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I could just like complain at length about how fucking annoying it is to not be, at least for me, like not be a woman without like needing people's opinion, you know? Like people will give you their opinion about what you look like, from like your grandma to like people just think that it's okay to like talk about your appearance like it's a good thing, like you need their validation or something, you know? And
well, that's human nature, right?
But it's just like, I don't even want to hear your commentary. That's how I feel. It's like, I don't go up to a man and say like, you look so handsome today, or like, you know what I'm saying?
But couldn't you, if you were
You
trying to like
could,
court
yeah.
a man?
Yes, if
sort
you're
of
trying
like
to, yes, sure. But like, even like women will do that to other women, like like constantly comment on your appearance.
Look at your ass.
And it's no, it's just small things, but it's like
all the
so there's certain things that like things that are seen as like feminine or girly that I like reject, and I don't want to reject them, but at the same time, like I don't appreciate them, you know? Like this whole like, who cares about what kind of shoes I'm wearing? Like, why do you have to? Is this superficial? Is this like weak complaining? It's just.
I mean, I hear you, but I think like I said earlier about that RA, the rugged man. I think your statements right now are packed with your own personal biases and experiences,
Totally.
and it's not like on the surface all I'm getting is your statement, and it's totally making sense. Like I hear your statement, but I think there's a lot packed into it that needs to be unraveled, because that, you know, that's not.
Does. I think I
don't
just
think
had a
I don't think it's
breakthrough moment.
no, I just don't think it's like that simple. You know, I don't think it's that cut and
No,
dry.
you're right. I'm really coming from like a very, very personal place right now.
Yeah.
I might be. I'm gonna be the first person to cry on your show.
Well, no, I
Kidding.
think you know,
Just kidding.
just
Just kidding.
I hear you. I think it's sad. I think society's a really sad place when everybody's out there lonely as fuck trying to get validation from strangers. I think that's a very sad.
Oh my gosh.
And that's
a
kind of
game
in
you're
line
never
with
gonna
what you're
win.
saying.
It's a drug.
Exactly, and
It's
I respect the fact that you pulled out of that false reality
of social media likes.
of social media likes and
Yeah, just the fakeness that came with it.
yeah, I don't know why you pulled out, but
Actually, you know,
I
that's exactly
but I
directly tied to why I quit. Why my YouTube video, why I quit social media, even though they're on YouTube.
on YouTube, available
Follow
on
me on
Spotify,
That's
Apple
hilarious.
Music.
That is totally true. Yeah, it was like so fake, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to get more you know, you don't need to get more in depth. It's what it is. But I gotta be honest, like I think I mentioned this to Sean. That was one of the major attractions to you.
It's sad.
Why is that sad?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I would totally double tap your personality or something. No,
I'm just saying, like, I like the fact that you didn't have the like
that I'm not an
need.
influencer.
Like, I like the idea of being disassociated from the need to have strangers like you on a constant basis. That's
I
nice,
definitely wasn't. I was.
you know?
I mean, I was never doing it. Well, okay. I guess my main thing, I liked putting out like my opinions and my stuff,
Right,
my
right,
political beliefs, and like, yeah, I liked making memes, and like I liked it when it got when it got likes or whatever. It was
Mhm.
fun. It was fun to stay engaged. And
Well,
it was
yeah, it releases endorphins. It's
Yeah.
a biological reaction, all that shit.
Yeah.
It's designed by the same people who design slot machines in Vegas. So when you pull the slot machine, you can equate it to when you swipe on, say, Instagram or whatever.
Oh.
That's pulling the lever in the casino. And they have designed the algorithm according to like your likes or whatever. But I mean, it's like that's really what it is. It's like a bunch of people at a casino sitting there smoking, blowing their whole retirement, just like missing out on
It's
life.
hypnotizing.
Missing out on life when life's in front of you.
If
This
you
was
see people
this was
on
Sean's
their
point, and I
phones-
agree with him to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
What?
Like that people are too inundated with like that fix, that high, that like that high of like endorphins and.
Yeah, I love the analogy to smoking in the 90s. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
I really wanted to have you on to class this one up.
I think that we could be.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll end on this.
Unstoppable.
When I last saw you and was on your podcast, I remember you were really. This is some Goodwill Hunting shit. In case you don't know this, for your information, you can, like you did. You're a collegiate person. You're very scholarly. You went out of your way. You went to Stanford. You went to like some of the conferences, the lectures, events.
Amazing events.
Not a lot of people know this, but the same guy who told me that if you want to date someone, you should take a long road trip with them, which is some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my life.
That's so
Great
funny.
advice. He also told me about these, there's like public access to Ivy League classes online. And we could put the links to those in the description. We'll have links to those websites. But yeah, it's like good stuff.
California just passed. I learned this at work. Through your public library, you can have access to Coursera and like all those learning platforms for free, which is crazy.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because there's so many classes on there that I want to take, but you have to pay for. So look that up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, wish you all the
Oh
best.
wait.
Yeah, here we go. We got the
Wait,
false. We got the
Sorry,
false endings all night.
I know. But you didn't finish saying what was that guy's advice.
What are you talking about?
He said take the road trip, and then he said something else.
No, he just told me that there are like you could watch classes at Princeton,
okay.
and Harvard, and Yale online for free.
Oh yeah,
and
that.
I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
You
I
know,
see. I
like,
thought it was gonna be like some amazing advice. Okay, all right,
well,
that is
what do you
good
mean?
advice.
That's not really advice. It's more like information.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
mass open
informative.
sources or something. Yeah,
The
the
what?
MOOCs, those huge classes
Yeah,
from
yeah.
grade
I gotta
school,
look
yeah.
up the. I gotta look the website. I haven't written down somewhere. But
All right, cool.
all right.
Good night.
All right, folks. That's the show. Thanks for coming out. We wish you a very happy holiday this week. This is our Christmas episode, I believe. After this, next Friday is gonna be Christmas, and this is gonna air a couple days before that. So we wish you and yours a very lovely holiday season. All the best. Much love.
Jesus is the reason for the season.
Amen. Amen. All right, peace.
Yeah, thanks, sweetheart.